Welcome to Terra Talks, where we talk about all things real estate. In each episode, we'll tackle current trends and topics of interest, both locally and regionally. However or wherever you decide to tune in, you're not going to want to miss this.
Hi, welcome to the latest episode of Terra Talks. My name is Jessica Gittins, and I'm here today with my colleague Lianne Earl.
Hi, everybody.
We're both agents with Terra Caribbean in Barbados, and today we're going to be talking about listing your property for rent and for sale with Terra Caribbean and what you can expect when you work with us. So let's just jump right in. Lianne, can you tell me about what it's like to list your property for rent with Terra?
Sure. So when you list your property for rent with Terra, you reach out to us and one of our agents that you're in touch with, if you might be familiar with someone, or if you reach out to us on the website, you'll be assigned an agent. The first thing that we do is we'll come to your property and take photos and a video so that we can assess the property and look at recent rentals in the area and what's also on the market to give you a price. We'll speak with our team of agents. So we have 22 agents at the moment. So we'll be speaking with the entire team. We'll be looking at the photos, your neighborhood, if the property is furnished, unfurnished, and based on our discussions with the team and also, as I said, what's on the market and what's been recently rented, we would advise you on a rental price.
Yeah, and we look at things that you can be confident that we'll advise you on what you can expect in terms of what's a normal request, what are people looking for these days, what we want to prepare you for what can come when you are going through the rental process. What we like to advise you is these things may come up, so we don't advise you to go and do all of these things with your property, but we like you to be aware of what you can expect. So typical things that people are asking for these days would be AC in bedrooms.
And living rooms, recently.
Yes, recently. But, as a minimum or standard, at least in the bedroom. We have a lot of people who have pets that are looking for rental properties. And, I know that it can be, you're not always sure about renting to someone who has a pet, but we do have things in place that can protect you. So we have a pet clause in the lease that speaks to exactly what will happen if there are damages to the property caused by the pet. And we also would encourage you to collect a pet deposit. And these are all things that we would advise you on. So even if you feel like you have no idea what it's like to rent your property and you don't know what to expect, you can be confident that a person from Terra will advise you and you will be informed to make all your decisions confidently.
Yeah, and then another thing just to touch on is that we do quite a lot of rentals with different clientele. So we have, people that are from the embassies, from some of the agencies that are on the island, and they have different requirements. They, things like security is really important, smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, all these type of things. And we do these quite often. So we are really familiar, with what their requirements are. They want someone from one of those agencies. They usually have someone from their security team also come and inspect the property. So if your rental is that type of category of a home, we would advise you in advance just to let you know what may or may not be required or requested.
Yeah, or if you want to target that kind of clientele, we would always say to people, we don't know who is going to be interested in your property, but you can set up your property to appease to a certain segment of the market. So we can give you kind of, as Lianne mentioned, the requirements for the agencies in terms of safety and security. They have various things that they're looking for: external lighting, alarm system, security grills. It depends on the property, but we are experienced and we have a very large team to lean on if we need support. So just rest assured that we will be able to prepare you for anything along the way in your rental process.
Yeah. And another point, just, another type of clientele that we get quite a lot of is students. So Ross University students, and a lot of them do rent in developments that we're the exclusive agents for. So for example, Sugar Apple, which is about to be completed for the most part, residents at Coverley as well. Those are really popular requests that we get. And, the students also have requirements which we are very aware of. But, to Jess's point that she made earlier, which was, we would tell you what you might get requested for, but we're not saying to go out and buy every single thing.
Yeah, it's just to prepare you. And what would you say is the process that someone can expect once they are happy with our pricing, they're ready to sign the listing agreement? What can they expect from there?
Yeah, so after we take the photos and videos of your property, we put it together into a marketing flyer, which is essentially the website copy. So that's something that we would take care of. And once you sign the listing agreement with us, which can be done just via email or electronic signature. Once we have that, we'll make it activated on our website. And what that does is it just notifies all of our team that this property is now available. We, have notes that, on the property that are not necessarily open to the public, where it'd be like, this owner is open to a pet or, is open to air conditioning, a living room, if asked.
Kind of internal notes in our back end so that the team is aware of what is possible.
So, and that way, if, for example, if I'm your agent, I'm not going to be asking you a million questions every single day, because I want to try and gather as much information as possible beforehand to basically minimize, your time being spent on this and let us take over and get this property rented for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then we will introduce the property to people who might be interested, people who it matches their requirements. Those are existing customers that we have, but it also is marketed on our website and social media channels. So people who are browsing that might not be existing clients can then reach out and inquire. When somebody wants to schedule a showing, we will do that as per your instructions. So whether you're happy to provide us with a key, whether it's currently tenanted and we coordinate with them, we coordinate with you or your property manager, it just depends. And we will begin showing the property. Once someone is interested, they have to submit an application form, a tenant application form, and there's some supporting documents that we will require for that. Once this tenant application form is submitted and you are happy, so you're free to ask any questions, ask for references, whatever you need to feel confident that this person is going to be the right tenant for you, we're happy to support you with that and advise you again what is a normal request versus an abnormal request.
Yeah.
And once you're happy with that, we can draft the lease for you if that is a service that you would like to utilize.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much covers it. At that point, once the lease is reviewed by you and you're happy with it, and then we send it on to the tenant, we obviously field any questions that they might have. And then we get them to sign it, you sign it, and we'd get the deposit collected on your behalf. And then you're happy to go.
Yeah. And I think something important to mention at this stage as well is once we have secured the tenant for you, the lease is signed and the funds are paid, at that point, our role as your agent is completed. We have done what we have set out to do. So we are happy to then formally introduce the tenant to whoever is going to be their point of contact going forward for all property related matters. So that could be you, that could be a property manager that you have, someone who takes care of the property on your behalf if you live overseas. It really just depends, but we would require a point of contact for going forward at that point. And if you need suggestions for support, we are happy to provide that to you as well.
Yeah.
So we covered that we take care of agencies and students, but I do think it's important to highlight that we do cover the entire market. So Terra Caribbean, we service anybody who is looking for a rental or who would like to rent their property. We're happy to advise you.
Yeah, you driving around the island, you see our signs everywhere. So we have representation for, listings all over the island. And, we have clients that are looking for listings all over the island, whether they are, working professionals, people that have just moved back to Barbados, that are looking for a home, welcome stampers, of course.
If it's your first rental.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're looking to downsize as well.
Yep.
So a lot of people sell their homes and they're looking just to rent and not have the hassle of owning a property anymore. So we can help advise you as someone that's looking to list your house for rent on what, your home, what might be required. But as Jessica said earlier, we can make those suggestions to you on things that might be asked for, but we're not saying to go and do everything. Just see
Correct.
who comes and and take it from there.
Yes, because it's important to note that while you might want to target a certain clientele, you don't know who's going to be interested in your property, because we it's open for the entire market to see.
Yeah.
And that's why we have the process by which we do the application form, and we collect important information on the client so that you can review and then make an informed decision on who your tenant will be for the next however long it ends up being.
Exactly.
Also important to highlight is that we do long-term rental. So that's the main chunk of our rental business. But we also can assist you with what we call midterm rentals, which could be anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, and if you, again, just inquire with us, and depending on what you want to do, we can advise you if we can assist or put you in touch with someone who can assist within our group. So we've covered rentals. Just before we move on to sales, because it was quite a bit of information, can you just give us a quick recap of what we've spoken about?
Sure, of course. So once a viewing takes place, then you'll be updated on the feedback from the viewing. Once we have an application in, your agent that you're working with as your listing agent will reach out to you and send you the information via a tenant application form, which will have really important details, and we can also do the reference checks for you if you prefer. Once you're happy, we'll send you a lease if you don't have one existing already. Any questions on the lease we can discuss. We send it to the tenant or the prospective tenant. They review and sign. We collect the deposit for you, and we then do a formal introduction between you and your tenant. Easy. Making it as easy as possible for you.
Yes, that's what we're here for, to make it seamless and just easy.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the process for listing your property for sale, I just want to highlight that we do have a lot of people who are currently in the market for rental properties, a lot of prospective tenants out there. So we need landlords. If you have a property that is available, that is just sitting around that you could potentially rent out, and this podcast has interested you and you kind of want to know more, you can inquire with us through whichever method of communication you prefer, whether it be calling us at 434-9000, inquiring through our website, or reaching out to Lianne or myself on Instagram. We would be happy to advise you on what you need to do with your property to rent it out. If you have an apartment attached to your property, or if you're interested in investing in a property that you could potentially rent out in the future, we can advise you on all of that. And you can help us to place all of these people who have been looking for a rental property for a long time. We have a lot of prospective tenants out there, and you might have the property that we need to rent to them.
It's a good time to be a landlord.
It really is. It really is. So now we're going to talk about listing your property for sale with Terra. And it's important to note that it's actually a very similar process to listing for rent, with a few differences and maybe a bit more detail. Do you want to talk about what that detail is?
Sure. So the first thing that we really would like to get from you, even before we come to the property, is a copy of your land tax bill and your plot plan. It's important for us to be able to assess some bits of information before we go and take photos, and then have that information to then advise on pricing. And, as Jessica said, the framework is the same. So we would come to the property, take the photos and videos. We'd speak to the team of the 22 agents. We would look at recent sales in the market, what's also on the market, and we would advise you on pricing. Another thing that's important in terms of information that we might request from you at the start is, if your property, for example, is in a condo or gated community, we'd want to understand the fees. We would want to, understand a bit more about the structure of the property. If it's in a, BVI company or offshore company, for example. There's quite a few bits of information we want to have before we go to the market, so that we, are informed about your property, so that when clients ask us, we can, deliver the best way possible.
And another piece of information that we would like to request is, if your property is something that has income producing potential, but you've never rented it out yourself, we can actually provide projections based on other properties that are similar. And that really helps a buyer who would be looking for investment purposes ascertain if it makes financial sense for them.
I mean, at this point, not required, but something nice to have if you do have this information is, if the property has had recent renovations, if the roof has been replaced, if there's a known issue as well, that would, inform us to advise you better on your pricing. If you put yourself in the shoes of the buyer and something that you would want to know if you were buying a property, it's always good to share that with your real estate agent. We are working together to, get your property on the market it as best as possible, and find you a potential purchaser.
Yeah. I also want to talk about, so Lianne mentioned when we advise you on pricing, we put everything together. I just want to go into a bit more detail on what that looks like and what you can expect from us. So what we do is, as Lianne mentioned, we will visit your property, document everything, and collect all the information that we would need to advise you accordingly. And then we go and do our own research in the background, looking at comparables, looking at current sales, how long they've been on the market, looking at those prices and seeing if maybe that price is wrong to help us come up with a good price for you. We get combined feedback from our team as well, which is super valuable because they're all in the market. And again, we have a lot of people to lean on and to get support on. And I think that's what makes Terra such a strong team. So when we've put all this information together, we put it together in a easy to digest email format for you. We will kind of walk you through what we have looked at. We'll send you that information so that you can review it. And we'll give you the price based on our combined feedback and the data that we have analyzed. Also in that email, we'll include the costs associated with the sale, and those would be the vendor responsibilities, so that that if you list your property at this price, this would be your gross, and this will be what you net after you take out all the expenses associated with the sale. A lot of people don't realize what goes into it, and it's nice to have it properly laid out for your review. So I think it's just important to highlight when we say that we'll give you our feedback, this is how we present it. And then, of course, if you wanted to have a phone call or a meeting to go through everything in more detail, we are happy to do that as well.
Yeah, and I think it is important to know, and for those that are experienced in the Barbados market, you will know this already, but we do have people that come to Barbados and buy a home and then they don't realize the cost of selling. So there is a cost of selling in Barbados. Some countries do it differently, where the purchaser bears a lot of the cost. But in Barbados, there is a cost associated, which is why we feel it's important to ensure that we're as transparent as possible. Have all the information for you in one email, so that you can see, at the end of a transaction, you're not going to be surprised and have an expectation.
So that you know what to factor into your pricing with the information that we've given you in what is a realistic price.
So we've gotten to the point now, Jessica, where we've talked about what we do when we're advising you on listing your property. But can you tell us a bit more about the difference between an exclusive and a non-exclusive listing agreement?
Sure. So a non-exclusive listing agreement means that you can list your property with any agency on the island, as many as you'd like. And, you're in charge of dealing with that communication and keeping every agent that you choose to engage updated. And while that might work for you, an exclusive arrangement means that Terra will be the only agency who has the listing for your property. So the agent that you're engaging with will be your sole point of contact for the purposes of selling your property. And that agent will deal with all the rest for you, making it super streamlined and simple, keeping the market updated, making sure the information that is out in the market is consistent and correct, and making sure it be a dedicated person to sell your property with a vested interest in selling it as the exclusive agent. The benefits of listing exclusively with Terra also include tailored marketing. It also includes, we have affiliates that we work with overseas. So you have your listing getting exposure in international markets and websites as well. And we also look after sublisting it with all the reputable agencies that we have good working relationships with on the island. So you are still getting the exposure of listing with multiple agencies because it is sublisted and will be marketed on their websites. Also, if you prefer for it to be sublisted with X amount of agencies but not marketed on their websites, we can control that as well. So when you have that dedicated point of contact to sell your property for you, it it's just an easier process for you as an owner. You're speaking to less people, and I think you really like your agent at Terra. So, I just think it makes sense. But as I said, it doesn't make sense for everyone, and you are free to choose. We are happy to attempt to sell your property, whether you decide to engage with us exclusively or non-exclusively.
Yeah. I totally agree with everything you've just said. And, one thing just to say, talking about consistency, there's nothing worse than seeing a property on multiple websites that are out of date with different pricing. And, some houses have multiple signs on them. It just doesn't look good. It raises red flags to buyers. They're, get very confused. They want to know where they're getting the right information from. And our website, we pride ourselves on having our website up to date as possible. And it is quite frustrating when, we see a property with a different list price, but we know that our price is the right one because we've been in contact and we've updated it accordingly. Okay, so we've touched base now on, what type of agreement you're going to do, and we've gotten to an agreed price as well for listing your property. We have all the information and we are ready to go. So what happens next? Our process is we start to market the property, whether it's to prospective clients or to potential clients that are either coming to the island if they're from overseas and they've seen the listing on one of our affiliated websites. Those people then come to us, approach us and ask to view the property. We set that up. As Jessica mentioned, same way from our rental perspective, you've given us instruction on how best to do that. So we will set that up. We will always have a Terra agent representing the property, whether it's someone else from another agency that we've sublisted the property with. Someone from Terra will always be there because we would then be priding ourselves on knowing your property best as your exclusive agent.
Or non-exclusive.
Or non-exclusive,
So once you are viewing with Terra, we will always be there. We will always be there to support you and to make sure that you're getting the correct information. We will never send you to a property without us, basically.
Yeah. So once your property has been viewed, whichever agent from Terra has viewed the property will ensure that you get the feedback on the viewing, typically within 48 hours. And what we will do, your listing agent will always be in touch with you, just giving you an update on what's going on in the market, whether it's market trends. For example, if you have a home in a neighborhood and there was another property that's sold, we would let you know.
If something else comes onto the market, we just keep you advised on what's happening and what's happening with your property, what efforts we are doing in terms of marketing, because we have various tools that we use to give your property a bit more exposure. So even if the property is not currently in a sales process and we're still searching for a buyer, we still are in touch with you on a frequent basis so that you know what is going on. And even if you have a question at any point, we are always available to have a conversation about what's going on with your property. The same way that we want to provide you with all the information that you need, we want to do the same thing for a prospective purchaser. And once someone feels comfortable enough to submit an offer, we then get to the process of formalizing that for you. So we get our offers in writing and we present them to you in a coordinated way so that you can review it. And we might have some negotiations depending on if you're happy with the price or not. And once we get to an agreement, then we have an offer and acceptance form or document that is signed off on both parties, and we then continue the process. If it's a cash purchase, we go straight to the attorneys. And if it is a financed purchase and the purchaser is using the bank's attorney, they have to do some additional steps before we can introduce the attorneys. If they have their own attorney but are still getting financing, we can put the attorneys in touch at that point, but there are some additional steps that the purchaser will have to complete before they can sign a sale and purchase agreement and pay their 10% deposit. While the sale is in process, in Barbados, it typically takes 3 to 6 months, but that is a very rough estimate and it really depends on a lot of things. But once a sale is in process, we try to speak with you on a weekly to bi-weekly basis, keeping you updated, asking if there's anything that we need to follow up on, just making sure that the ball is still rolling. The responsibility is more at the attorneys at this stage because it is really heavy legal work once we have that signed offer and acceptance document. But we do our best to keep it moving and to continue to support you and advocate for you during the process of the sale.
So, something that we have had a lot of positive feedback on, sets Terra apart, is that anytime we have an offer that comes in, we always ask for it to be done in writing and, put pen to paper so that that person is showing commitment. It's not just a promise and they're not just saying, I would like to, verbally. And I think that once someone commits and signs that paper, then that shows you as the owner of the property that this person is serious. And is committed to the process and really has intention to buy your property. And it is something that I've had a lot of feedback on. I know that some of the team and I were discussing this recently, and it's something that we definitely pride ourselves on. And it is really important, right? Because you don't want to be entertaining someone that isn't serious and then you've let someone, fall by the wayside where that could have...
missing out on other opportunities, entertaining someone who may not be too serious.
Yeah. When we get to the part of the process where you might need a recommendation, whether it is for an attorney, a contractor, on the purchaser side, if they need a valuer, obviously there's a panel of valuers that they need to use, but we might have a recommendation or someone that can, be responsive, because it can take a while and we want to push the sale forward as fast as possible, or, to your timeline that suits you. We have a wide network of these, type of professionals that we can always refer to you. And, if you have any questions at all throughout the process, your listing agent is the person that you can go to. And if they don't know the answer, they have a wide, we have 20 agents and we can run by any questions to them if we don't know the answer. So it's just really important, something to know.
So that completes the sales process. Just to wrap up what we've discussed, we have spoken about what it looks like to engage us as your listing agent, the process that we follow, the information that we ask for, what you can expect when we start showing the property and when a sale is agreed, and how we support you during that entire process. We've spoken about how we can make recommendations and just how we are happy to support you along the way. We've also highlighted the difference between an exclusive and a non-exclusive agreement and what you can expect when you engage with us in either agreement, and what you can expect along the way and how we will support you. And before that, we spoke about rentals and similarly the process and what you can expect from listing your property with us, and then what happens basically until we secure a tenant. And I hope it's been a useful podcast today. We are happy to talk to you and answer your questions. If you have any further questions, if you're interested in listing your property with us for either rent or sale, you can contact either Lianne or myself directly, or you can inquire through our website, or you can give us a call.
This has been another episode of Terra Talks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please feel free to follow us on our YouTube channels, Instagram, our personal social media channels as well. And check on the Terra website. If you have any questions or queries, you can reach out to us. Thank you.